As the coronavirus continues to flip up our world, at least how we used to know it, right here in our own backyard of Mansfield, Ohio, we're trying to make changes and navigate the waters just as best we can. So to help answer some questions that you may have out there, we've got a couple of councilwomen with us today, Jean Taddie and Laura Burns. First off, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Don Bryant, former councilman, sitting in with us as well. Donnie, obviously, you've worked hand in hand, I believe, with at least Jean, and you know Laura a little bit. What can you start us off with here? What do you think the people need to know?
So I worked with both ladies. Laura, our councilwoman, it's so good calling you that now. Worked with her on a few initiatives while I was a councilman. And so Jean, I've worked with her on city council. So both excellent choices for our show today. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time.
So obviously these are unusual times. None of us have ever dealt with what's going on here short term over the last few weeks. Jean, we'll start with you since you have the most experience. What do you feel like your role is as a council person right now? What are your constituents asking you about? What are some of the top questions that people want to know?
Well, interestingly enough, the constituents are contacting me about the same things they contact me about throughout the rest of the year. And I think that's important to realize that people still expect good quality service from our city. So I get calls about things like the cleaning up an area that has been a dumping site problem. I've gotten 3 calls on that. I've been getting calls about, checking on our neighbors, making sure that our seniors are safe. I've been talking with seniors, shall we say, and I do know that, for example, Meals on Wheels and other services through the Area Agency on Aging, they're really wanting to get that message out to seniors, so trying to spread the word there. But it's remarkable how the calls come in about how we spend our money. I'm getting calls, we got to get police cars for the police. I'm getting calls, we've got to fund our downtown efforts. We have to make sure that we are still doing good business while at the same time recognizing that half of our staff is pretty much we're alternating half staff on, half staff off. And yet our constituents want a full-time results, I guess you could say.
Now, Councilwoman Burns, how are your neighbors doing? How's things going in the First Ward during this COVID-19 outbreak?
There's a lot of yard work being done. I think pretty much it's about what Jean said, pretty much business as usual. Everybody is continuing to have the same needs. I mean, life doesn't stop just because we're not supposed to go and hang out with people. So everybody's continuing along. I have the same concerns that we had before. There were a lot of concerns about the budgetary allocations that we were discussing. But I would say on the whole, the neat thing to observe during this time is that neighbors I've lived in my neighborhood for almost 10 years, and I've walked by these homes for years, out walking the dogs and so forth. And now people are starting to wave and call hello from their porches, when before you could just walk by and you didn't even really notice a person because you were in your own world. And I think now that we've lost some of that interpersonal connection that we're used to, we're reaching out in different ways. So I think it's got good potential.
Now, how are you keeping in touch with your neighbors? Are you calling them on the phone? Or do you send out emails? Do you contact people through social media?
Social media is generally what I've been doing, or standing out on the street and yelling up and saying, "Hi, how are you guys doing?"
Nice.
And for you, Jean, I know that you've been involved in the community for a long time in a lot of different ways. How have you seen a shift right now in terms of the way the community members are engaging with one another? Just like Laura was saying, maybe she's getting more waves than normal. What type of shift have you noticed?
Well, I think it's nice to see more of my neighbors out walking. So that's fabulous. And that more and more people are willing to acknowledge each other even from a distance. I think that public communication that we have, that we might even chat with somebody normally that we're standing in line with at the grocery store. Now we're doing that 6 feet away when we walk past them. It's, as Laura said, it's very much a more social from a distance. I have a motto I wrote about many, many years ago. It's look, smile, nod. And it's kind of like if you're walking along and you can make eye contact with someone and they make eye contact with you, and then if you smile at them and they smile back, then you know you've made a connection and you can nod at each other. And now it's even look, smile, say hello, because there's a lot more people being social to each other from a distance. And that's a beautiful thing. And also that people are trying to keep a distance, because we've been doing a good job in Ohio, and I think in Richland County, at respecting that.
Now, Jean, are you guys still meeting at City Council in person, or are you doing virtual meetings? Anything new on how you're meeting?
So we're attempting to meet digitally on Zoom and simultaneously live stream it on Facebook, as well as digitally recording it for the records. And that has been a challenge. So we'll be back at it tomorrow, which is Thursday, to try what we meant to have, a finance committee meeting, and our regular council legislation was supposed to be last night. It'll be tomorrow instead.
Well, Laura, what ways do you feel like your job as a councilwoman are being impacted right now? Are you finding that you're creating new opportunities, connecting with everybody digitally, or are there more challenges associated with not being able to technically interact with people up close and personal?
I think that I've been really surprised by how much I have wanted to have close connection with people right now. I think that the fact that it's gone has made it a lot harder. I have found myself really wanting to check in on particularly the elderly people in the ward, wanting to make sure that they're okay, that even that they have things like stamps to pay their bills. I found out earlier this week that we had several residents who didn't have the stamps needed to make sure that their bill was paid on time. And, you know, in today's day and age where we're having conversations digitally, the thought of writing out a check and paying a bill completely, like, it slipped my mind. It never even occurred to me that that would be a need. So it's been a different way to connect with people. And I think that my focus has changed, because coming into this position, I had some hopes and dreams and things that I was really looking forward to working on, but we had to adapt. It's just the way that it has to be right now. And I feel that I'm learning my neighbors and the constituents better.
Yeah, it's interesting how certain things that you don't really probably tend to think about are popping up right now. What are some initiatives that you guys had in the works or are currently working on for Mansfield City Council? Because, I mean, the stay-at-home order, I mean, we're still just only in our third week. This is all very new. What are some things that you were working on before kind of the coronavirus dominated the headlines here? Well, what's going on in Mansfield?
Well, I'll let Laura speak, but I remember when I was 2 months in, I'm working on figuring out the ropes here, and the budget hits you right away and the block grants hit you right away. But for myself, in that short lull of January and a quiet time that I had to work on some issues, I've been meeting with folks about Mansfield's cleanliness problem. And some of it is an individual problem if somebody's not conscious about what they do with that wrapper in their hand. Some of it is a business model problem. For example, when overnight 27 tires show up somewhere, that wasn't 27 different people throwing a tire out. That was somebody that got paid to pick up that tire in one shape or another and dumped it in the community. And also an enforcement angle, as we learned, you know, not all of our garbage haulers were licensed, and to help enforce that, encourage them to come in and get licensing. Earlier in the year, the police traffic enforcement unit was politely pulling folks over and making sure they had their license with them. So right before the coronavirus, the very last in-person meeting I had was with Richland County Solid Waste Authority and a representative from Rumpke about their recommendations of what's a good solution for what is a multi-tiered problem that affects many people, some of whom didn't contribute to the problem but have to live with it. And it also affects our pride in our community, how we feel about our community, how others look at our community, and, you know, how we attract new business.
As the leaders of the 1st and the 6th Ward, I'm interested in how many phone calls, how many emails, how many door knocks did you used to get? What's standard for you? How often are you guys asked for your opinions on what's going on in your wards? And how many people do you feel like you deal with let's go on a week-to-week basis. We'll start with you, Laura.
I don't really feel like I have a high number of people. I feel like more of the conversations happen in the grocery store than they do people sending me an email or calling me. I get those, but it seems to be more, I run into somebody in the produce section and they stop to ask me a question about, hey, what's going on? When is this getting paved? It's different, I think, for me, potentially.
And for me, in the past, I would have a lot of conversations at those neighborhood watch meetings and those networks, like I said, of various groups that we're in contact with. So now that that's less, to some extent, I made contacts deliberately with neighborhood organizers to try to get a vibe of what's going on there. But I still get Facebook messages at all hours of the day and phone calls and emails that come in. I would say probably about 3 a week that require follow-up, and usually 2 out of 3 a week are for our codes and permits department.
Obviously, during times like these where pretty much every business, where a lot of the businesses that are not considered essential are shut down, I'm curious where you stand on barbershops and hairstylists. I am getting out of control here. I feel like everybody else is. Are you concerned for the people in your ward and the way that they're looking with their current hairstyles? And what can you do to ensure that we get back to looking the way that we need to?
No doubt. Oh. Right. This is my number one thing I miss more than anything, is being able to go to my stylist, who I just found when I was door knocking in the 6th Ward right on South Diamond Street, Anna's Hair Design. So heck yeah, I miss that greatly. I think the good news is we're 6 feet apart, so we don't see each other quite so clearly. And secondly, I think we're all going to come out of this a little bit different than we were before, and some of us may come out of it with a new do. Who knows?
I agree. I'm very concerned about our local businesses, that's your livelihood, helping us look good. But I think we're all going to get real creative here really soon, because those grays are popping up a lot faster than I thought they were.
So as we wrap up things right now, we like to ask if you want to communicate with your constituents within the 6 wards. Do you have a message of hope for people moving forward? Are we going to get through this? Is this the end of the world?
No, it's not the end of the world. We're going to get through this. When all of this started, I reached out to my grandmother who lived through World War II, and I asked her questions, and she said what she remembered the most was how everybody focused on what was important. And right now, what's important is taking care of your people. And I'm doing the best that I can from your curb to take care of you. And I hope that everyone still feels comfortable reaching out. No issue is too small. That's why I'm here, and I want to serve the 1st Ward of Mansfield.
Amen to that. I think it's beautiful that people really are taking this time to get back to good old-fashioned values like sitting on your porch, waving to your neighbors, checking on your neighbors. So I want to encourage my 6th Ward constituents to continue to do that, check on each other. Call us at the city if you need services. Of course, we're still going to be there, and call me if I can help you navigate. So you don't have to have a computer. Just dial 419-564-7707 to reach your 6th Ward representative.
Yeah, we appreciate your time, and just like you ladies were saying, as much as this is keeping us apart, the coronavirus, I think it's also bringing us together. Newfound perspectives are being had by a lot of community members right now, so we will emerge stronger. This is just a drop in the bucket in the big well that is Mansfield, Ohio. So thank you to ladies, Laura Burns and Jean Taddie, for joining us. Keep continuing to serve. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So great interview. I love talking at the local level to give our people, most of our viewers are from North Central Ohio, to let them know what's actually happening here, Donnie. And I think our top takeaway was, while COVID is dominating the headlines right now, and certainly it's fresh, it's new, and it's shutting down a lot of things, there's still issues here in Mansfield that these council people are still focusing on, still making the city a better place right now.
Yeah, and you know what? I like the fact that we had a Democrat and a Republican join us today, because, all politics is local, but, putting party aside, we should all be able to work together. I think Councilwoman Burns, Councilwoman Taddie are working together on city issues. I think If we had more time, we should have, and we could, and maybe next time, dive into more issues about what's really taking place with local government. Recently, there was talks about shutting down the O.C. Hill building on the north side. That's a very controversial issue that we need to discuss moving forward, and really just get more issues out on the table to see how people are feeling about this.